Hey everybody, welcome back to Living Traditions Homestead. Today is the day that this batch of American Bresse Chicks is going to move from being in a tractor to moving into a hoop coop.
Now this batch is about 7 weeks old. They are actually a really great size for 7 weeks, being really a dual purpose chicken breed. We are very excited to be raising this batch of them for meat for Kevin and I to have for the next year.
We're going to do the same thing that we did last year, which is move these now from a chicken tractor to one of our hoop coops. We're going to build a small little run area outside of the hoop coop. These guys are getting big enough now that really we would either need to split them into 2 tractors, or we would do what we're going to do, which is give them just more space by moving them into one of our hoop coops.
Once they get just a little bit bigger, we'll be able to let them out into our chicken moat. That is an area all around our garden space here where it's kind of a dual, like a 2 fence system. Right now, they're a little bit too small for that because they can kind of walk through the fencing, but just a couple more weeks and they'll be able to go into that area.
Now the hoop coop that we're going to move these guys into today is actually the very first hoop coop that we ever built. It's a little over 4 years old, almost 4.5 years old. And to be honest, it is holding up really, really well. It does need a new tarp put on it today. When we originally built it, we used some billboard material, and that has kind of taken a beating over the last 4.5 years, but I'm really happy that it lasted that long.
The newer hoop coops that we have made, we have reinforced with metal sides, which we've really liked, actually just kind of the peace of mind that we've gotten from adding metal sheeting kind of to the sides. We're going to be also adding that metal to this hoop coop, not because anything's wrong with it. We just, like I said, have more peace of mind knowing that it's going to be harder for predators to get into the sides of the hoop coop. So we'll be doing that today also.
So let's take a walk over there. Before we get ready to move these guys, we'll do those repairs and then we'll get these chicks moved over. So this is the hoop coop that we're going to be moving the Bresse chickens into today. You can see it's still holding up really well. Door still works great. There's perches inside. The only thing that really needs some fixing again is this tarp over the outside. It's starting to get a few little holes in it. It's just not very weatherproof anymore. So we are going to take this off and replace it today. You can see that there is a little door in the back here that when we get ready to start letting them out into the chicken moat area, that's where we can let them out. For now, we're going to build a new run area out the front door, and that's where they'll be going in and out of for the next little while. There's nesting boxes in here, but these guys won't need that. Sarah touched a little bit on putting some metal on the sides. You can see this hoop coop over here where our breeding flock and egg-laying flock of American Bresse live. This is what we did on here. And it just gives some extra protection so that predators can't rip through the tarp. Even though they really couldn't get in anyway, they could reach through and try to grab things. So this just gives some extra protection. And all in all, when we're mowing or weed eating, anything like that, it also helps protect the tarp. So that's what we're going to do again on this one over here. Now, one thing you may notice on this one that's a little bit different is that we still have the boards on here. We used to only put these on in the winter for protection from the cold, but we've actually learned that over time, leaving these on even in the summer has protected them from the heat as well. There's still some pretty good airflow through here, but because we leave these on, it blocks a lot of the intense sun from getting inside of there, and the chickens really seem happier with those sides on. And again, it's a little more predator protection as well. So I think we're going to end up putting the winter panels back on this one, maybe not today, but sometime in the near future. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the old tarp off of here. We're going to take this wind strapping off. We're actually not going to replace this. We found over time with our other hoop coops that this wind strapping really isn't necessary. So we're not even going to put it on the new one this time. We've had several of our hoop coops that don't have this on, and they're holding up just as well as the ones that do. So I wouldn't even worry on new ones. I wouldn't even put this on.
I know in the past people were also having a hard time finding the wind strapping, so really don't worry about it. Just put the tarp up and don't worry about that wind strapping.
We've got the old cover off of the hoop coop so you can see inside of it really well now, but it's time to put the new tarp on. Now this new tarp, this is the same tarp that we've been using on all of the new hoop coops that we've been building. I just buy these on Amazon. They are a super heavy duty tarp. They're a little bit more expensive. I think this one, it's a 12 by 16, it was about $50. But I can tell you, we've got some on some of our hoop coops that are going on this is their third summer, and they are holding up so well. These are an 18 mil tarp, which is really, really thick, and I'm just really happy with the way they work. So I'll leave a link in our Amazon shop to this. I think I already have it in there, but I'll double check. And these are really, really nice. We're in no way affiliated with this company, but I like to tell you when we find something that works really well. All right, so we're gonna unfold this. I'm gonna get this put onto the hoop coop, and then we'll start putting that metal on the sides. Now these tarps have grommets I think they're about every 18 inches. So we'll just be able to screw these right to the bottom board here. And they really go on really easily. And then we'll be putting that metal over the outside.
Now, of course, as soon as we start doing this kind of a project, the wind starts picking up a little bit. It's not too bad today, but we have done this type of thing with really heavy winds, and I've basically almost like blown away trying to hold this tarp in place.
There's a few things I've learned since we've been homesteading, and that is anytime you need to work with a tarp or anytime you start a fire, the wind picks up tenfold from what it was. It's just the way it works.
It's not too bad, so I think we'll be able to get it up and over here without like flying away to Kansas or something.
The gray side out.
Yes. You pull it where it needs to be, and then I'll go on the other side and let you know how it is.
Well, I've got the tarp on, it fits well, and the next step is going to be putting this metal on. Now this is metal that we've had just in a big pile sitting behind one of our barns. We've just got a big stack of this old barn or this old roofing metal from some of the buildings that we either tore down or buildings that we re-roofed, but it's still perfect for stuff like this. You can see on one side it's still pretty good, on the other side it's rusty. We'll probably put the nice looking side out, why not? And basically it's just going to attach onto the sides like this. We're going to put it all the way down to the ground. Now on the inside we'll be using a piece of 2x2, and basically I'll be on the outside attaching the metal. Sarah will be in here kind of holding this up like this, and then I'll just screw straight through into this 2x2 at the top of the metal. That does mean that we're going to be putting some holes into this tarp. When I first did this, I was really reluctant to do that, thinking it would be a big problem and rip over time. I've got some that I did this to a couple years ago already, and so far it's staying just fine. So I'm not too worried about this. These tarps are so heavy duty and they're on here so tight that they don't move a lot. So I'm not too worried about just putting a hole right through the tarp to put this metal on. So that's what we're going to do again today. Now I did decide to take the nesting boxes out of here because one thing, they were in the way of where we need to run the 2x2. And these breast chicks that we're raising for meat don't need nesting boxes. They're not going to be around long enough to start laying eggs anyway. So this way it gives them more space in here. The tarp and the metal is all done on the hoop coop. It's time to move on to building a small little run off the front of the hoop coop for the chicks. We're going to be using these, they're called kennel panels, that we bought last year when we needed to raise some chicks. Now these are kind of a crazy tall height for raising chicks, but the story behind that is when we went to the feed store, they sell these in a 5-foot and a 6-foot height, and last year when we went, they were all out of the 5-foot, so they only had 6-foot. So that's what we had to end up buying. So there's no way the chicks are going to jump out of these, that's for sure. But we needed something that had small enough openings that they couldn't get through either. And these are just a good, convenient kind of panel. Instead of using like woven wire, these are easy to store and we can just put them away when we're not using them. So these are, I believe, 12 feet long. So we're going to build a little run off the front of the hoop coop here that's basically 12 feet. And then we'll kind of angle these at the front actually so that this hoop coop is 7 feet wide, but out at the front here, it'll be 12 feet just so we can use a full panel. So we'll be putting up 3 of these. It's only going to take 5 T-posts to put these up. And then we'll be able to start moving the chicks and all of their food and water and everything over here. All right, so we've got our run set up here. Now, this is very temporary. This is in no way the way I would build something if it were going to be here forever or really need to protect the chicks. But this is only to keep them in. They will be locked inside of the hoop coop at night. So this doesn't really need to protect them from predators. It just needs to keep them from getting out. So we put 2 T-posts on each side, 1 T-post here, and then this will just kind of act as kind of a makeshift gate here so we can get in and out when we need to feed them and everything in the morning. During the day, we will just leave the door of the hoop coop open like this so they can come in and out as they want. It gives them plenty of shade here. I think this is going to be a good temporary setup until they're big enough that they can then go out into the chicken moat on the other side. All right, so this is all set up. We're going to go grab their food and water, set that up over here, and then we can start bringing the chicks over. All right, so we've got their water moved over here and their 2 feeders. Now, recently I did a video where I talked about building this type of feeder. These were actually the cheapest feeder that I could find on Amazon. And you guys, they worked out so well, the 2 that I built on that video for the adult breast chickens and the turkeys, that I bought 2 more and I made them here for the breast chicks that we're raising as well, because it really does cause them to waste a lot less feed. They basically just stick their head in and eat through here. So these have worked out really well. So we built 2 of them for these guys as well. Each of these buckets will hold about 12.5 pounds of feed, so about 25 pounds for the 2 buckets. And that lasts several days for the batch of chicks that we have. All right, so this is everything that they need to kind of be moved in. We're gonna go grab them and start moving them into their new hoop coop. Well, all of the repairs of the hoop coop are done. The chicks are all moved in. That was a great job done, and this is going to be a much better setup for them from here on out.
Like we said earlier, these chicks are about 7 weeks old. Because they're a dual purpose chick, they are going to take longer to get to maturity size where we can process them for meat. This particular breed will need to wait until they're 16 weeks, which is actually much sooner than other dual purpose chickens, which take about 24 weeks to reach maturity for butchering for meat.
Now, we used to always raise the Cornish cross chickens, and we're not ruling out raising those again in the future. We do really like the Cornish cross because they grow so fast. The nice thing about the American Bresse is that while they don't grow as fast as the Cornish, they still grow faster than a standard chicken. They get bigger than a standard chicken, and you can reproduce them yourself, unlike the Cornish cross. And that's one of the things that we really do like about them. So these are all ones that we hatched out ourselves from our laying flock, and it's just a really good sustainable meat source for us here on the homestead.
The Cornish cross chickens we can also raise in the chicken tractor that we move every day for the entirety of their life with us. That mainly is because when we open the lid to care for them, they're too heavy-bodied to fly out. Whereas the American Bresse chickens, they're smaller bodied, they can easily fly, and the chicken tractor is just no match for them. When they get old enough, about this size actually,
Right.
They can start flying out when we're trying to put in water and put in feed. So that's why we're moving them to this situation, but it's also kind of a more natural situation for them where they can kind of come in and out to the grass, and then once they grow a little bit bigger, like we said before, we can let them out into the chicken moat and they can have a lot more space.
So you guys, we hope that you enjoyed watching us kind of fix up this very first hoop coop that we ever built. It's actually held up really, really well. I'm actually pretty amazed at how well this is done. We have some pretty bad storms here in southern Missouri, and this thing has really kind of stood the test of time.
You guys, we hope you enjoyed spending time with us today. If you're enjoying videos like this, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. And remember, the best way you can help us here on the homestead is just to share our videos on your social media. Until next time, thank you so much for stopping by our homestead. Take care and God bless.
God bless.